With our favorite Australian and God's perfect idiot finally sharing the screen together again, it is now time for us to settle once and for all who has the better game between Deadpool and Wolverine.
Let's go! Let's go.
Since it came out much later, Deadpool clearly has the advantage in terms of some graphical aspects, whether it be the texture quality, the reflections, or the overall polygon count for some massive round objects. Deadpool definitely has it better. That's not to say that the Wolverine game looks bad. In fact, graphically, it does do some things way better than the Deadpool game, especially in the effects department. The blood effects here are so good that they make Deadpool's blood effects look like cheap paint strokes. The way the blood splatters and leaves trails for each individual claw is just amazing. Plus, there's much more visual variety in the Wolverine game due to the very different types of locations you visit, from giant tech factories to jungles. Because of these reasons, the graphics are a draw. Both games get a point. Gameplay-wise, on a surface level, both games are pretty similar, being linear action-adventure games. In terms of traversal, both games have the option to double jump, but Deadpool relies more on stuff like wall jumping, while Wolverine relies more on climbing around with claws, using ropes, and lunging to enemies, which is satisfying as f***, and I'll talk more about it in a bit. Both games have you solving various environmental puzzles, which are also way better in Wolverine, especially in this level where you're using portals and shit. Point to Wolverine. The juicy stuff comes in the form of combat. Keep in mind that both games were played on the medium difficulty because that's as high as you can go in the Wolverine game on your first playthrough. In both games, you mix light and heavy attacks to perform different combos. You can attack enemies in the air and perform various special moves. Both games have absolutely phenomenal body damage systems which do a great job in showcasing the insane regenerative powers of the characters. They can be blown to shreds to the point that you can see their internal organs. That's one way to rearrange guts. In Wolverine, you only have the claws, while in Deadpool, you have 3 melee weapons and 3 ranged weapons to choose from. Plus, you can also pick up some temporary weapons that the bigger enemies drop. That being said, comparing both these games shows the perfect example of why you should always prioritize quality over quantity. In Deadpool, the combat is clunky, slow, and unsatisfying. The sound effects are like accidentally squeezing a ketchup bottle too hard. You can attack in the air, but there are next to no situations where you actually get to do it. The controls don't feel snappy or responsive. The game throws so many enemies at you, but Deadpool is designed in a way that each hit locks you onto a particular enemy and you can't change the attack direction until the animation has finished. The only good thing I can say here is that sometimes you get to perform hilariously ironic stealth kills. The game also takes inspiration from your dad and gives you the ability to teleport, which is useful for defense. The same button also allows you to counterattack, and I'ma be honest here, there is no timing or skill involved anywhere here. The difficulty in this game doesn't test your mechanical skill, it tests your patience. It's basically an Area 51 experiment to see how long you can mindlessly keep shooting at something before you want to shoot yourself in real life.
Damn it, Wade!
Enemy variety means nothing since almost every enemy type is just a hit sponge. Melee attacks aren't even an option against the bigger guys since they keep yeeting you away. Here I am using the best weapon in the game, fully upgraded, and it still takes this long to kill these basic ass enemies. And if that wasn't bad enough, some enemies also provide shields to other enemies, so good luck mashing the same button over and over again for the next 10 minutes because f*** you, that's why. Sometimes this unfun, repetitive bullshit straight up had me running past all the enemies, only to realize that I can't get past this section without killing them. Seriously dude, the combat in Deadpool can be an absolute chore to the point that it had me wishing I can skip it and get to the next cutscene. Coming to Wolverine, however, this shit slaps. The combat is fast with that oh so sweet sense of video gaming responsiveness. The animations are better, the blood effects are bloodier, the game feel is fucking ecstasy, dog. Here's what the special moves look like in Deadpool. That was so fucking weak. And here they are in Wolverine.
Holy Jesus!
In terms of defense, you have dashing, dodging, and parrying, which does require some timing and skill unlike this. Attacking enemies in the air is an actually viable option. You can close the distance quickly by lunging to enemies, and it is one of the most useful and fun features in the game. Also, remember when I said in Wolverine you only have the claws? Well, actually I was a lying man there because the environment is also a weapon in this game. Whoa, was that a Logan reference? Grabbing enemies out of midair and then Bouncing them off the ground again and again is just so hilarious. Yes, there is also grab attacks that can be performed both in the air and on the ground, which brings us to the finishers. The takedowns here are some of the best I've ever seen in a game. The Deadpool game doesn't even have any takedowns other than the stealth ones I mentioned earlier. You have multiple different finisher animations for each enemy type, and they are so damn good. Speaking of enemy types, unlike Deadpool, the enemy variety actually means something here, as you have to change your attack tactics according to their moves and abilities. The only thing I don't like in this regard is that in some parts the game just overuses these Titan enemy types. Coming to the boss fights, S tier, absolutely amazing. This game makes the fights against these characters in the movie look like child's play in comparison. And you don't just fight characters from the movie. For example, this Sentinel fight belongs in the Hall of Fame of video game boss battles. Hell, in the bonus challenges, you can even fight another Wolverine with the same powers and movesets as you to unlock different outfits. The boss fights in Deadpool are a joke compared to this. They are no different from the patience testing, hit spongy, boring ass combat encounters that you usually go through. Limb dismemberment is present in Deadpool as well, but it doesn't hold a candle to how it is handled in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Both games have big bombastic set pieces. The difference is that Deadpool set pieces rely more on the overall writing and big things going boom, whereas Wolverine set pieces are much more brutality and actual gameplay focused. Both are fun in their own way, but I like the ones in Wolverine more. And if that wasn't enough, there's also an insane rage mode here. This game perfectly captures the satisfying, visceral and animalistic nature of Wolverine's fights. Plus, Hugh Jackman's grunts combined with the literal fear and pain of the enemies as you absolutely destroy them, backed by aggressive music, really sells it all, man. Easy point to Wolverine. What's the story? X-Men Origins Wolverine is of course about the origin story of Wolverine. I know, right? Very surprising. It's a movie tie-in game, so obviously it mostly follows the movie's plot, yes, including the worst parts of it.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet, nigga.
But that's not all, because the game story is actually better than the movie itself. It expands upon everything that the movie tried to cover. Hell, it has more of the origin part than the movie did. It takes you to various distinct locations, to characters, which are great fan service for all X-Men fans. You get to play across the past and present, but there's also story elements regarding the future thrown in here. The game gives much more depth to Logan himself, as well as the other characters like Wraith, and it also includes X-Men that aren't even in the movie like Mystique. It really shows that if this game wasn't tied to a movie, Raven Software could have crafted an even better game with a much stronger narrative. Now, the story of Deadpool's game is that Deadpool wants a game. Yeah, that's basically it. Let me elaborate. Deadpool has basically forced High Moon Studios into making this game. He knows that he's in a game, but Deadpool being Deadpool, he refuses to read the script and starts pulling his own tomfoolery, which leads him into a plot against Mr. Sinister. Deadpool talks directly to the player, takes nothing about the plot seriously, and tells you that you shouldn't either. The whole thing is just meta as fuck. Now for Wolverine, by movie tie-in game standards, Hugh Jackman and the other actors definitely do a good job.
You know she's still alive. Right, who do I have to gut to get some explanations here?
No one. I promised you answers and I make good on my promises.
But you just can't compare that to Nolan North's Deadpool.
Hey player, just go with it. We're about to change your fucking life. Bring the noise!
You can tell that he was having the time of his life with this role. Many other X-Men are involved in this plot, including Cable and Wolverine.
Deadpool, I know you're around here.
Hey! Oh, it's you.
The main point on which Deadpool's story is based on is fucking around and finding out. The game is just an over-the-top ridiculous comedy. There are comic panels, Deadpool's inner voices have thought bubbles, exaggerated cutscenes and whatnot. The game actually uses this jokey nature to its advantage. The Mark with a mouth is an unserious smug bastard who is constantly breaking the fourth wall. Bro is a professional yapper for real.
Crazy. I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. See, he's like an angel.
Now there are some very outdated 2012 memes and jokes here which have aged like your average fat positive influencer, but it still has a lot of crude humor that makes the boys laugh. It's always interesting to see what sort of crazy bullshit Deadpool is gonna come up with next. Like here he caused too many explosions which blew the budget and turned the game into this.
What the fuck?
Deadpool's game just flips the finger to making any sort of sense and just tries to be as crazy, hilarious and as fun as possible. Hell, I only wanted to play this game to bitch slap Wolverine.
Fine then. That's for all the clown jokes. That's for never calling just to say hi.
That's for what Hollywood did to me in your movie. This story would have been so much better in every aspect if it was in a show instead of a game, because then you wouldn't have to sit through the sloppy ass gameplay to get to the next cutscene. Another big problem I have with this game story is that it does away completely with the serious aspects of Deadpool's character, which doesn't do it justice. The movies handle his character way better than this game does, and I can confirm that this stands true in Deadpool and Wolverine as well. With that being said, the story in the X-Men Origins Wolverine game is nice and on its own can be considered better than Deadpool's game, but how Deadpool's plot plays out is way more entertaining to experience. So I'm gonna give this point to Deadpool here. Now looking at our scoreboard, Wolverine's the clear winner, and it's not just that it's a better game than Deadpool, but also an awesome game in general that, like your sister, I can easily recommend it to anyone looking for a good time. However, I would only recommend the Deadpool game to someone who is either already a fan of the character or just wants to have a laugh without much care for the gameplay. Here's a picture of me that I edited as a kid in Microsoft Paint to give me the powers of two of my favorite superheroes. I love Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. They are two of the best casting choices in Hollywood history. I said on my Instagram story that I waited for this since I was 6 years old, sticking butter knives between my fingers. It delivered. It's not perfect, but I love this movie, I really do. Speaking of love, YouTube thinks that you'll like this video as well, so be sure to check it out. As always, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.